Well, hello there, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And yeah, on this very hot Florida night, we are going to discuss a little movie, and yeah, I'm going to try to do some recording. So everything ready tonight. We're going to talk about, if you didn't notice in the title, we are going to talk about a little Irish movie, a little Irish horror movie that I absolutely love called Citadel. This is the DVD, and this is the Blu-ray that I bought here recently to replace the DVD because I love this movie. And so yeah, it's called Citadel. It's an Irish horror movie, and it was directed and written by Ciarán Foy, and it stars Aneurin Barnard, James Cosmo, and Wunmi Mosaku. And yeah, so we are going to talk about that, or this and that. So yeah, Citadel was released in 2012. It is a fantastic little horror movie. Not really sure what you would call the ferals in this, and so that's what I call them, is the ferals, F-E-R-A-L, the ferals. But the movie opens with a couple, Tommy and Joanne, and they are packing up to finally move out of this really bad apartment complex, housing complex. It's probably like 50 stories high. Well, yeah, about 40, yeah. Okay, maybe 30. But anyway, it's one of those big, giant, high-rise, low-income apartment complexes, and they're packing up to move out of it when, as usual, Tommy gets stuck in the lift in the elevator, and the elevators in this particular place is more like just a lift, and it's got a big window that you can see out of. So they get stuck in he gets stuck in the lift, and he can see Joanne, who's like really pregnant, probably about 8 months, and he can see her down the hall, and he's taking stuff out to the car. When he comes back up, the lift won't open and he can't get out, and he sees her standing there waiting for him, but then he sees 3 kids walk in front of the lift and start walking towards her, and he's doing the buttons and he's trying to get the doors open, he's trying to get out, but he can't, and then he sees them viciously attack her. So right when the attack starts and they like jump her, the damn lift finally moves down. So it takes him down, and he finally gets it to stop, and he runs up the stairs, and they're gone, and she is beaten half to death on the floor, and she's got a big syringe, like a drug syringe, like someone that shoots up heroin and stuff, sticking out of her stomach. So she has got foam coming out of her mouth. They take her to the hospital where they actually managed to save the baby, and she is in a coma. And we then fast forward to 10 months later. He has got the baby. He has gotten out. He's moved down the road a little bit from that complex, and he is a absolute mess. His PTSD has manifested itself with agoraphobia. And if you don't know what agoraphobia is, that's where you can't leave the house. Now, this actor, Aneurin, Aneurin portrays someone with agoraphobia. I've never seen anyone portray it like he does so accurately. except for Sigourney Weaver in a little horror movie called Copycat, which is another one I would like to do sometime. But Sigourney Weaver has agoraphobia in Copycat, and this is the first time I've seen anyone come anywhere near, and his portrayal of a person with agoraphobia, severe, extreme agoraphobia, is the first one that's come equal to Sigourney Weaver's portrayal in Copycat. So here he is trying to take care of this little baby, and Joanne is in a coma in hospital, and so he's having to deal with that. He is completely wrecked with PTSD, dark circles, can't sleep, eaten up with agoraphobia. It's terrible, terrible. So he's doing this at the same time while also trying to attend therapy, and his wife's in the hospital in a coma. She's never come out of it since the attack, trying to raise this baby, and dealing with all of this. So he is an absolute mess. Now, on top of all of it, he keeps seeing these creepy little kids coming around his house in the middle of the night, And this is a bad area. Like, it's like even one of those no-go zones by the Dibble, the cops. They won't even go into the area, so you're pretty much fucked if you live in that area. And he is continuously seeing them, and he's scared to death. He knows that they're coming back for him, or that's what he thinks. And of course, most people are sort of blowing it off like you're just paranoid, it was a one-time thing, you got burgled, it's not, and you had this horrible attack. And they keep coming though. Eventually one night, they do actually break into the house, these little feral children. They actually do break into the house where he gets beaten up, but the baby is still left there. So he finds the baby when he comes to, and he tries to report it. He tries to tell his friend, the social worker. He tries to tell her, and and she's just like everyone else. She's like, I care, and stuff like that, but you just got burgled, you're letting this get to you. So it's the typical victim not getting any belief or attention. So he then has to deal with this horrible situation where the hospital has determined that she is brain dead, and that the time has come for him to go and turn off the machines and see if she lives or not. So he knows that she's going to die, and he goes, and that's a pretty sad scene, because they turn the machines off, and she dies, holding his hand, or him holding her hand, and now that's it. It's over. So he is once again trying to save up, get housing, to get completely away from this area. And at the funeral, there is a priest who comes up to him and is like, he doesn't know this priest, the social worker does, and she claims he's crazy. But the priest actually, comes up to him and, tells him that he needs to get out of here. He needs to get out of here quickly because they're coming for the baby. And in his confusion, he's already a basket case, right? So he's got this priest saying that, and he's like, he wants to know why. He wants to know, what do you mean? What's going on? So how does it happen? He ends up, telling the social worker about it, and this, of course, makes his agoraphobia get like 20 times worse. And the social worker, Maria, she comes to see him, and he knows that it was the same kids that broke into the house, or the same group, that had done that to his wife and ended up causing her death. So she, again, tries to convince him that, he had just been burgled. It wasn't that big a deal, to try not to let it send him. victims are always treated that way, it seems. Like everybody wants you to just chill out and calm down. And you're like, you know, it's not paranoia if it's the truth. You know? If someone's really out to get you, it's not paranoia, no matter how many times, someone says that. So that's kind of funny. But he ends up becoming so scared after that that he does go to the priest, and the social worker Marie goes with him to see the priest. And unfortunately for him, the priest is kind of crazy, or at least what he is saying sounds very crazy. And that is that, he tells him to come with him. The priest also is taking care of a little blind boy named Danny. So him and Danny, Marie keeps the baby while him and Danny and the priest goes somewhere. So when the priest starts getting close to his own neighborhood, he actually takes him back to that building where Joanne was attacked. So of course you can imagine Tommy freaks out, and Danny is this little kid who is like, no, don't worry about it. They can't see you, because the priest tells him that the kid has sort of got a psychic thing where he can hide your fear, because he's explaining to Tommy that this is where they live. It's a bunch of feral children infected with some kind of they're not zombies, they're not dead. It's more like they're infected with a rage virus of some kind, but it's not like, it's not like 28 days later or anything. It's just this weird virus. And they actually start coming out of the building towards the car. And Tommy is screaming for them to leave. But Danny's like, no, they can't see you, they can't see you. If you will just let me cover you. So the priest, ends up telling him that they, in their blind rage and their feral condition, they actually can't see you. What they need and what they feed on and what they see is your fear. So you have to remain calm, so to speak, to be invisible to them. So he ends up telling him that the only way to get rid of this problem is that his plan, the priest's plan, is to burn this building down. It's the only way before they spread to other buildings and become like a contagion, So Tommy then thinks he really is nuts, and refuses and makes him leave, take him back, and he kind of gives up on that. So he continues with his plan, doing his therapy, trying to get out of the area, when Marie asks him to go with her to the store. So he goes with her to the store, and as they're walking back, she wants to take this shortcut through the tunnel. If you've ever lived in Europe, there's lots of tunnels underneath the city, underneath the walkway. They have them in America too. These little walkways underneath the highways that you can go through instead of having to cross the road. They're a lot more prevalent in Europe though. So he refuses, like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, I walk this way every day to work. So they go through this tunnel, and he sees a little group of these kids coming through it. And she kind of makes fun of him in a come on, calm down way. They're not going to hurt you, they're so misunderstood. They're just misunderstood homeless kids and abused kids and stuff like that, doing the typical social worker thing. And she says, I'll prove it to you. So she said, you just stay right here. And she goes up there to talk to them, right? Where they instantly rip her to shreds. And he freaks out. as you would, and goes running out with the baby and manages to outrun them through streets and stuff like that, and actually, because he was trying to get to the bus stop to go back to their area, which there's only one a day. So he manages to get away from them because him and the baby nearly gets hit by the bus. So when the bus stops, he gets on the bus, and they start going on down the road, when all of a sudden the bus stops again, and a bunch of these kids come on the bus. So when these kids get on the bus, that's when they end up, he crouches down in a back seat with the baby, trying to stay calm, trying to at least remember a little of what Danny had said and the priest had said, while these kids rip a couple of passengers that were on the bus and the bus driver to shreds. Then they come, and right as they're leaving, the damn baby starts crying. And they attack, they beat him senseless, and take the baby. So they got what the priest had told them all along, and that is that they have the 10-month-old baby. So he ends up in hospital, and when he comes to, he's got to go get his baby, yeah? So he takes off, walks out of the hospital, and goes straight to that priest, and is like, they've got my baby, and I'm going now to do something about it. Now, the priest had to, nearly beat the hell out of him to get him to stop, because he's like, we can't go because it's blackout. Now, in places like that, the power grid is very bad, and in some places they actually turn the power off for a certain amount of time every night, or even certain days that the power is off. You can learn about that on Wikipedia or Google, how in very poor areas of some other countries, they actually shut the power off intentionally. So the priest was like, we can't go and do it because it's blackout, and it's a lot more dangerous. We will go tomorrow. So he does manage to calm him down enough to get him to wait till tomorrow. And that's when they all load up, and he agrees to go and help do that. On the way, that's when he starts explaining more about this. We learn that these kids, it all started with a female junkie who was pregnant, and this constant mixture of dirty needles and drugs and chemicals and living condition and all of this is what has created this. It's almost like rabies, and that she died of it, but before she had died of it, she had given birth to a set of twins, and a set of a boy and a girl set of twins, and these kids were just toddlers when she died, and they had this, I guess you would call a milder version of this infection from, birth. And they lived down there in the basement, in the sewers, and stuff like that, and became these little feral monsters, basically. And not only that, they were like an urban legend amongst the street people. But they were real. And not only that, but they interbred when they became teenagers. They interbred and started having infected kids. And these kids turn other kids by shooting them up. That's what that needle was that was sticking out of Joanne when they attacked her, is that they kidnap other kids. And it turns out that Danny, the reason that he had the powers that he had, or thought he had, was because he was one of those kids that was kidnapped and held by these ferals and had been shot up with some of the stuff, but the priest had rescued him. That's where he had came from. But he had lived a long time in the basement being transformed into a feral. So I guess that's their way of reproduction now, is to kidnap and feralize you by using their own, by slowly dosing you with the infection. So that's when he explains their origin story, and that Danny can use his mind to hide the fear, which later we'll see turns out to not be exactly true. But the priest had convinced Danny of that so that Danny would be saved. And he had told Tommy that so that Tommy would believe it. If you're in the middle of this shit, you're going to believe anything, right? So that's, the priest had sort of lied about that. It turns out that Danny really didn't have that. But since he thought he did, he could control his fear. And if he was with someone who believed that he could cover or mask their fear, they would stay calm as well. See, it's a psychological thing. So they go to the building, and there's some there's a lot of creepy scenes in this, because this dilapidated building, it was like something out of Saw, you know what I mean? And it was a lot of really scary scenes, a lot of jump scares. I really liked it. But, so they start setting the charges because they want to blow this building up, right? And it's all hooked to the car. So the plan was to go in, go up and down, set the charges, go into the basement, and find the baby, and leave, and blow the building up, or at least start the giant fire that would kill all of these feral creatures. So while they're doing that, Tommy hears the baby. So he breaks away for a short period of time, to go and try to get the baby. He doesn't make it, however, and the priest ends up finding him and is like, look, I'm only rescuing you once, and this was it. If you run off like that again, you're not going to get your baby because you're going to be dead from these creatures. So they end up continuing to do their work. Now it turns out this priest is got serious lung cancer and is on his deathbed, so to speak, The Walking Dead, and he starts having an attack, where you're coughing up blood and stuff. Now, that's when he tells Tommy about that, and then tells them that he can finish setting up the things, that he knows he's not getting out of this building. So, you take Danny, this is what he was telling Tommy, so you take Danny, and you go get your baby and get the hell out, because we pretty much got everything done, and I'm going to finish up. So he uses himself, he sacrifices himself. But the one thing that he wants to do before he sends them on their way is he ends up telling him that back when he was younger, that junkie, that prostitute junkie, it was his babies. Those two twins were his babies. And because he was a priest, and because of, she was a junkie, he abandoned them to that fate. So he blames himself for this situation, which is understandable because it kind of really is. So he gets his karmic results as he finishes up doing the stuff. He is, of course, seen because now he's terrified. He becomes terrified when he coughs up all that blood. This alerts the ferals to his presence. So he even says to Tommy, because Tommy looks at him like, "What are you doing?" Because you can hear the ferals screaming and coming for him. And he looks at him and he says, "Sorry about that, but what man's not going to be scared when you're about to die from choking to death on your own blood and having cancer?" So they get him and they rip him to shreds. The pharaohs rip the priest to shreds while Tommy and Danny are running down into the basement. Now that's a real powerful scene when they do get to the basement, because you get to see what these pharaohs have been doing. They've got cages, like dog cages. And what they do is they kidnap a kid and put them into those cages where they stay for years. Literally for years. They stay in this little cage, being dosed with the other pharaoh's blood, being fed human meat and raw meat and stuff like that, animals and rats and stuff, and shot up with small doses of this infection to turn them into the pharaohs. So he finds his 10-month daughter in one of the cages, and he manages to get her, and him and Danny are leaving when they are faced with a bunch of those pharaohs coming. And Tommy has finally learned the secret, and he knows, and Danny, who now knows he doesn't really have that power, Tommy convinces him that we all have that power. They cannot see us. Just say that. They cannot see us. So, that's what they do. They walk slowly out, and the kids do. The pharaohs just do kind of walk past them, continuing their crazy. It's all in your head. It's all in your head to stay calm. Control the fear, and don't let them see you. So, Tommy and Danny manage to get out. They get to the car, and the sun's going down. And so this is the time. And they turn the switch, and they blow the building up. And they're all dead. Of course, we probably know better, right? There could have been a sequel, because you could think some of them could have gotten away. But there you go. The movie ends there after they blow up the building. And there you go, that is Citadel. Now, of course, as people who watch any of my reviews know, I hit all the spots, I tell the story, but of course I leave a lot of scenes out, I leave a lot of stuff out. I basically turn it into a campfire story, and without every single detail. So, if you like horror, especially if you like European horror and Irish horror, you should love Citadel. Citadel is a fantastic little movie. It's pretty reasonable to find. I think I got this Blu-ray brand new, still in the shrink, for $5.99, something like that. So yeah, there you go. 2012, Citadel. Like I said, they're not really zombies. They're just the infected. And I call them ferals because that's exactly what they are, right? But, yeah. So there you go. 2012, Citadel, written and directed by Ciarán Foy. And, yes, I will see you in the next video. I really love this movie. It's an 8 out of 10 to me. And, yeah. If you haven't seen it, give it a shot. If you have seen it, tell me what you think about it if you are so inclined. And I will see you in the next video. And always remember and never forget, you're a very, very special person. And no one can take that away from you. No matter what the world is doing to you, no matter what anyone is doing to you, you are the only one of you. Keep screaming very, very loud, but only when appropriate. And I will see you in the next video. Again, my name is Rusty, and this is where I like to talk about horror. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. I think it's going to be Trash Fire, and then I'm going to do Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. So I will see you in the next couple videos. Check you out later. Bye bye. Love you. Miss you. Bye.